and welcome to Boss versus Coach. At the outset, I must thank you for your encouragement and support to the recent videos. I also would like to thank some of you who have expressed their interest and who have volunteered to this transformational journey of Boss versus Coach, and they have agreed to drive it with me and Olivia. Today's video is little special. We have two of you who have will be part of this video, who will be presenting their views, will be sharing their understanding on the topic of the day, which is feedback. Feedback that fuels performance. We all need feedback, and we all need people in our life who can give us feedback, and that's how we improve. Feedback helps us identify our gaps, while feedback is also directional and it shows us the way we need to proceed to achieve our vision, our goals. While I might be sounding more from vocabulary side, and I am equally aware that the real world does not exist the way I am trying to portray. Like me, you all might have different experiences with feedback. You might have different understanding with the concept of feedback. I often see feedback triggering a lot of negative emotions, a lot of aggression, a lot of anxiety. People tend to get discomfort when they are called for a feedback. Why feedback is so negative? On today's session, I have my friend and colleague Olivia and two special guests who will discuss this concept of feedback and why is feedback considered negative, as well what we all can do to create an environment where feedback becomes welcoming. So Olivia, what's your take on feedback?
Well, it is one of those words when people say it, most of us get a terrible feeling inside thinking, oh no, what's going to be told next? One of the great things about feedback is, we can't see how we come across. We don't always see our strengths. We don't always know where we've gone wrong. So actually just having someone else give us another perspective on what's going on is essential for our learning and growth. Absolutely. The challenge comes because so many people do it in a way that makes us feel worse about ourselves. If I've just performed badly, I'm probably the first person to know it. So someone piling in and saying to me, you did that all wrong, it's just going to make me defensive, stressed, and I'm probably not going to hear what they're saying very well. So actually, if we can be really kind, really generous with our feedback in a way that supports people's growth, looks to how they can perform better, then we can give an amazing gift. It takes time and it takes effort. And actually, it takes quite a lot of thought to really notice what someone has done really well or how someone could just develop their thinking. And so spending time with someone to take a little bit of time out and just really help them to grow, it's a beautiful thing to give and also to receive then.
Thanks, Olivia. I think a lot is spoken good about feedback on this show. I'm sure the viewers will not agree to it because feedback is the ugliest side of, doing the right upbringing, or I would say doing the right motivation to the employees and the team members. What do you see goes wrong when we get to a table to give feedback or we receive feedback?
Well, I think there's a whole load of things that can go wrong. Like I said, I think the first thing is intention. Are you just trying to tell someone they're wrong, which isn't going to feel good to say or to receive? Although sometimes when you give that kind of feedback, you might feel a bit better about yourself. But in the long run, it's not a nice thing to do. So there's something about the intention and getting that right. A lot of people will say, well, what you do with feedback is you say something lovely, and then you give them some hard truths, and then you say something lovely again. The problem is, I don't know about you, but when someone starts to say something lovely, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, here comes the slap. I'm about to be told that I'm terrible at something else. So it just destroys a relationship. We've talked about psychological safety together, Mohit. And, it ruins it if you know that every time your boss sits down with you, they're going to go in with something that's unkind or feels like they're not on your side. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges, is going in to a conversation and knowing you're going to get something positive out of it means that, of course, you're welcoming feedback. When you go in knowing that someone's going to have a go at you, well, it's never going to land well, is it?
I fully agree. I think the more, I think it's the intent and it's the approach. And thirdly, it's how you wish to get that feedback. So I think getting feedback is the responsibility of both the person who is giving it and the person who is receiving it. And there's a lot to be done and discussed on that front. So let me open the stage now for two of our special guests. So we have today Rita Tripathi. Rita has been connected with us on this journey of boss versus coach for a long time. Rita is from a consulting industry. She has more than 2 decades of experience in business development and strategy. And she has been through the different phases of leadership journey and has a lot to share in terms of her experience and understanding. Welcome, Rita.
Thank you,
Uh,
Mohit. Thank you so much.
I also have with me Divya Bharti. So Divya has worked with me previously. Very inspirational, very committed. She's someone who loves to be fun at work and who loves to create fun with work. And Divya has been a source of motivation and source of inspiration to many. For me, Divya is a little more special because she's the only one who considered me worthy enough to give her autograph. So here's Divya Bharti for us. So Olivia, let us ask our guest how do they see feedback and what is their experience with the same. So Rita, you may go first.
Sure. So, this word feedback has got so much negative connotation to it that probably I think we should think of some other word. We can invent some other word towards it so that people don't feel threatened. As you said, Olivia, the moment we say, I have a feedback for you, the negative emotions kicks in and the person goes in the defensive mode and just thinking about how to counter that rather than listening and understanding this stuff. So probably it's more about how you approach it, how your language should be when you talk to the person to whom you're giving the feedback, and also about creating a psychological safety net for your employees or for your reportees when you go for a feedback. So if you have created that psychological safety net, where you praise in public and give feedbacks in private, and then you also show your commitment towards their career growth rather than being an tick box boss where you just tick on the things. Okay, I have done this, done that. No, you should really be invested in their growth, and it clearly shows when you create that safety net for them. They can come to you right away and they can talk about, like, hey Rita, I did something which was not so great. What do you think, what went wrong, and how can I do that better? Instead of you going them to say, I know it's very difficult, but then the first step is to create that safety net, I believe. And then about your language. So one way of saying things, hey Mohit, you were really bad. And then there's another way of saying it, look, I think you could have done better. I have some examples for you. Why don't you try this? Maybe next time you will shine through it. And this is where your intentions also comes in. So you are not giving a feedback for the sake of feedback. It shows that your intentions are pure. You really want that person to grow in life, not only in that career setup or something. You're really invested. So I think these are few trips and tricks and tips you can think of when you talk about feedbacks. And just you can recall your own journey, when I was a reportee, how I managed those sessions, and how my managers approached me. So whenever I had a manager who was open, who gave me that safety net as to I can experiment with the things, and it's fine if things go wrong. I have someone at my back who would really support me in public. I was really open in sharing my feedbacks. And I also had an instance where my boss was really a micromanager. not having that trust between us, and things were not doing great at that point in time, and nobody was growing, neither my boss nor me. So that's not a good situation, so that is one my take on this. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Rita. And I think there is something which is not, I would say, special to hear, because this is something which we all have undergone at some point of time or must be undergoing in our professional lives. And that's why I said in the beginning that feedback is, is taken always negatively. I never saw a situation myself, or I have never seen people coming to me seeking feedback. So there have been situations that people avoid those discussions, and because they know that this will be something which will take them to a lot of upsets and disappointment. And that's the life goes. So Divya,
Even
what?
managers,
Yeah,
sorry,
no
just a
worries,
point.
please, Rita, please, please, yeah.
Even managers sometimes are scared to share that feedback with the employee, thinking that it can disturb the setting which they are having. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Over to
So
you.
Divya, over to you, your experience, your take on feedback. Does it fuels performance, or does it create roadblocks? Divya, you're mute.
So definitely, it has some defensive mode in me. In fact, in my starting of the career, I was like, "Ki, if someone gives so basically, I think if feedback is misunderstood by criticism and negatively criticism. However, feedback is more of a constructive thing. Once it's very specific, if it is properly deliverable in the actionable point, and with the empathy and the tone in which the manager or colleague or anyone imparts that feedback in a very empathetic way, then only it feels a very positive environment. And then being from the design field, we are totally in that mode in which we collaborate with people, we seek opinion, like what's your take on this. So yeah, definitely with the time I am also growing. I have seen my colleagues, my juniors, how they were. I can recall I was also in that zone only, where I become so defensive. Like I have put so much of effort and come up with this idea, then people are often not ready to take that feedback, and that goes in a negative way called criticism, which is a negative thing. But feedback is a very positive thing. So I don't think people should unlearn that thing that it's a negative. It's actually very constructive, because I have seen, in fact, my with my experience, I have seen during my manager and senior and faculties. So it was more like this is not good. They don't specify why it's not good. So I have
Hmm.
learned this thing, and with my interns, with my juniors, I made that clear that this is the thing which I feel should be improved, or which should be like this is not looking that good because of this and this thing, because color combination or whatever the design specific. So they get that idea and they learn those things so that they are not that in that confusion box.
Hmm.
So that is more of a constructive feedback. Otherwise, if you say anything, not only in terms of work, but in terms of life also. If you
Mm.
say something in terms of like you are not doing great or something, you have, if you are a good friend, if you are a good mentor, you have to specify those things, and in a very gentle, in a very positive environment. You have to build that environment, build that relation. Then only that feedback will be not considered as criticism. Rather, it's a very good thing. Feedback is definitely a very constructive thing, not only in the professional life, but also in the personal life also. This is
Very true, Divya. Olivia, a question for three of you. Uh, we are talking about how people give feedback and how people take it, and this is normally flowing from the bosses to their employees, or I would say, coach to their coaches. How about the 365-degree culture of feedback? Does it exist? Because I have seen that even the coaches, or I won't tag coaches because coach is something which we want to see. So I will say the bosses are even fear of getting feedback. While every organization is currently having a program of 365-degree appraisal, but I have seen a lot of hesitation. I have seen a lot of discomfort. I have seen a lot of resistance, even with people at the top, when they are made subject to feedback from people at below. What do you see of this situation, and how do you see it in the journey of boss versus coach? Maybe Olivia, you can go first, and then Rita and Divya.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it takes an amount of vulnerability for a boss to be given feedback by their team, but it also really models how important it is to get feedback. I used to work with a guy. He was at board level, and he made it his mission that after every meeting, after projects, during projects, he would turn to people at all levels in his team and say, "Oh, have you got some feedback?" And to Rita's point, he would say specifically, what did I do well and what can I do even better? At the beginning, that was really uncomfortable and people found it a bit weird. He's a very senior guy asking this. And then they realized that he kept asking it. And when they gave him the truth, he would thank them. So he was modeling how to graciously receive sometimes some slightly difficult messages. Sometimes they weren't put to him beautifully, but he was showing that actually he wanted to learn as well. And I think that's an amazing way for a leader to show how things can be. If the leader is resistant to feedback, gosh, everyone's going to be. They know it's a bad thing. What do you think, Rita?
I agree, Olivia. It is something which works top to down, not the otherwise. So if leaders are available or they are committed towards getting those feedbacks from even the lowest in the food chain, maybe a janitor, I believe that will set the tone or set the culture of the organization, and then people will be
Absolutely.
open when they will talk about it. Let me share you one example. So in previous organization, my managing director came to me and said that, Rita, what do you think it's bad in me and how should I work around it? And I was like, oh my god, how do I do that? He is the person who can say, okay, you don't come to office from the next day itself if he's offended. So and I was terrified. I was really terrified, and I avoided him for like 3 days in a row so that he doesn't ask me this question. And when fourth day he caught me in the aisle when I was going for a coffee, and he was like, hey, you remember I asked you a question? And I was like, okay. Then I thought, let me be true to myself and to that person and give that feedback, and I was true in saying that. He took it really well. Okay. And we made a culture where all the heads of the departments were asked to get regular feedbacks from their subordinates so that they understand what should they do better. So this is one example, and there's another example where I did give that feedback to my immediate boss and it backfired in a bad way.
Yeah.
So yeah, depends how. But having said that, it is more of a top down thing. If you want to set that culture, probably all the leaders have to take that initiative within the organization, and then things will really fall in place.
Absolutely. Divya, what do you see that leaders are hesitant of getting feedback? Why do you see they are hesitant?
So I think I don't have such experience because in my generation, or I think in Gen Z and these millennials, we have that culture of like horizontal level of hierarchy. So we really don't bother. So we have a very, I think we are blessed that people have worked so much that our generation don't have to face those things. Let it be a manager, partner, or any level, we have a very frank conversation, and really don't feel hesitant to give our opinion or give our feedback. So I really don't think that is that might be there. We might not be said like that because we are much more junior to to those people, but I think now things are changing. People have a very high horizontal level of hierarchy. So people are, or at least things are setting differently, and people are accepting the feedback from juniors as well. Even
That's
Okay.
interesting.
my juniors are
Interesting.
also like they are also like we are more probably like buddies kind of thing, not in buddy like, but it's like chill like environment where we share our ideas. They give our the feedback. They say like, "Ma'am, I don't think this is working. This won't work because of this and this reasons." So we are, I don't think so. कि that is now a very yes boss culture anymore. So things
Mm.
are changing, and senior people are also changing with the time.
Well, that's an interesting one because I think it depends a lot on the boss. To Rita's point, if it's someone who can fire you because they didn't like what you said, you might not be so happy to give feedback. And I think so it really is the environment. If you're in a place where, and certainly in the design world, I've worked in that too, you're always criticizing each other's work in a constructive way and looking at how to do things better. It's very different. You know, if you are in a big corporate or in professional services, you know, that there is a lot more hierarchy there, even if you don't want it. So I'm really intrigued as to your experience and how widely it's experienced by others. I'd love to know from some of the viewers.
Agree, Olivia, fully. Actually, I feel that feedback, one of the reasons that feedback has got a lot of negativity attached to it is because feedbacks are always half done. People pass striking comments, they make striking statements. They just come out telling you what's not good in you, but they never conclude it with how you need to improve or what you could have done better, like Rita said, to handle the situation you have. So I think feedback needs to be more directional, motivational, and one thing which feedback involves and which we often miss on is follow-ups. So if you have given a feedback to someone, you should, as a leader, as a coach, make a check on that feedback and see how that person is working on it. Is that feedback really helping him?
Mm.
Was your assessment of feedback not correct? And I think that's where the real power of feedback will get created, and people will see the
Mm.
value coming out of these conversations. So I think that's something which we also need to keep in mind. So just a last thought for all of you. What is that one thing you would like to state for the bosses uh, to help them deliver a better feedback? Just one thought which is coming in your mind out of your experience. What would one thing you want the leaders and the bosses at the top to consider when they are sitting for a feedback conversation?
That's a
Olivia?
very big question, Mohit. I think we have touched on it before, but I think it's about intention. What do you want to have happen as a result of the conversation? And actually, one thing that Divya said in her first comment is about being specific. So noticing something and specifically talking about that. It's not a character assassination. It's not a shopping list of things that you're not doing well enough. It's very specifically, I've spotted this, and this is what I think you might focus on. So that for me, I think is the intention and the specificity.
It's fine. Yeah, Rita, your thoughts?
Again, a tricky one to be in one word. Maybe, you should be very regular, and you
Mm.
should have a plan in place, when you talk about feedbacks. So I guess 1:1 are a great tool where you can sit with that person and you can talk about good things and not so good things, and put a plan in place and check with that person on regular basis as to how he or she is progressing, and how as a leader you can help him or her achieve, to do good in that aspect, or that feedback which he was given. So probably being consistent and regular around it and helping him achieve that at the end of the day should be one of the keys to get really feed into that performance culture.
Agree. No, it's well said. Divya, any thoughts you have on what the leader should do?
I think when it's delivered with empathy, with a very clear intention, then things fall in place. So feedback don't sound like criticism. So if the boss have a very clear intention and delivered with a very in a positive environment with the empathy, so I think that makes very valuable tool for the development of the people who is in the receiver side.
Mm.
No, I agree. I think so. So nice thoughts, nice kind of fact, right? Concluding remarks that feedback should be delivered with empathy, with a thought in place. You need to have a clear understanding of why you want to give a feedback and what is that feedback you are giving it. And as Olivia said, that intention at the last matters a lot. I think if I have to conclude this interesting talk here, so I will have one last liner to put, and that's people often forget what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. So
Mm.
I think it's the in one line, it's all about feedback. So one needs to think about what they are gonna give and how should they take it. On that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Divya, for being a part of this show. I look forward to do much more and many more with you. And thank you, everyone, for watching us. And do share your feedback on this video. Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye
all.
bye.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.